What is up, my dude and dudettes? Teller2 back with another episode of r/Prorevenge, where people share with us their best revenge stories. If you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date with my latest videos. With that being said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Bully creates his own revenge. This one's a bit long, but please stick with me because it's a good one. So here's the basics. When I was a kid, my dad was in the service, the US Navy, and so we moved around a lot. Because of this, I was always the new kid over and over again, meaning I was constantly the target of would-be bullies, and this made me fairly introverted and distrusting of other people by nature. In the waning years of my father's military career, he decided he would take his family back to his hometown and do some recruiting until he retired. So away we went to the family farm built by my great-grandfather. If anyone has ever found themselves moving to a small town suddenly, then you are well aware of what I mean when I say that the locals were very small town minded. For those of you who don't know, the small town mentality is basically thus. If you're not from there, born and raised, then you don't belong there. A lot of small town citizens are closed off and want nothing to do with outsiders. So there I was, not only the new kid, but introverted and an outsider. Bully magnet. For the most part, I tried not to let it get to me, but I did have some bad days and got into a few fights. Always in self-defense though. And eventually, as people grew up, most of the other kids matured out of trying to be a bully and began to just leave me alone. Especially once they found out who my great-grandfather was. Something about one of the 4 founding families. I don't know. I never really cared that much, and besides, those people had shown their true colors by treating me like crap for the years at that point. But that's a different story. This story is about a kid we'll call Mike. You see, Mike was the only one who never seemed to grow out of trying to be a bully. He would daily track me down and tell me how worthless I was. That I was just some dumb farm boy who would never amount to anything and would always be a loser. He would walk up to me randomly and say things like,
I know you're gonna be the one who shoots up the school one day, and when it ends with your suicide, I'll be the one cheering.
He had some issues. At one point, I arrived to school to find he had painted the combination on my locker with toothpaste. A lot of weird stuff like that. Anyways, we get into our senior year of high school, and I've long since been doing my best to ignore him. His not being able to get a reaction out of me seemed to really upset him, and even his friends started saying his seeming need to find me every day to simply be a jerk was bordering on the creepy and obsessive. And then, all of a sudden, the verbal abuse stopped one day a couple months from graduation. I assumed he had finally just given up, but that wasn't the case. A couple weeks later, I walked to the end of our long driveway to catch the bus and found that our mailbox had been run over. I didn't think anything of it at the time other than that it must have been some drunk. I get home later that afternoon, take some photos of the damage just in case, and then fix the mailbox. New wooden posts buried onto the ground. I finish my other chores and homework and relax the rest of the evening. Next morning, I go to catch the school bus and the mailbox has again been run over. I get home, photos, repair it, chores, homework, relax. It happened again the next day and again the day after that. This went on for 2 weeks, only stopping on the weekends. My parents had reported the smashing of the mailbox, but there was no evidence to who the culprit even was, so nothing was done about it. I finally have enough of digging out broken posts and replacing them, and so, the revenge. I get up early on a Saturday and head to the end of the driveway. I dig a 2 feet by 2 feet wide hole, 6 feet straight down, and filled the hole with fresh cement. And in the center placed a 10-foot section of the old farmhouse's original cast iron water pipes, sunk 6 feet into the concrete. I filled the rest of the 10-foot cast iron pipe with concrete as well and mounted the mailbox on top. Mind you, I looked into how far from the road the mailbox needed to be for safety reasons and attached ample amounts of reflectors. Monday morning comes and I notice the mailbox post has all sorts of scratches on it, but otherwise it's fine. I get to my final class of the day, creative writing, and am in the middle of a story outline for that week's project when a friend of Mike's comes in. We'll call him Steve. Steve sees me and freaks out. Steve goes,
Do you have any idea what you did to Mike's car?
I didn't do anything to Mike's car. I don't even know what it looks like.
Your little stunt with the mailbox totaled it. He had to get it towed into town at 5 a.m. this morning.
Small town, auto garage is definitely closed at 5 a.m.
He's gonna sue the frick out of you.
Censored for r/, just in case. Whoa. You mean censored for TellerTube, come on. Okay, but you are aware that deliberately hitting or damaging a mailbox is a federal offense, right?
What are you talking about?
You don't actually own your mailbox. Legally, it belongs to the post office, so destroying a mailbox is destroying government property, making it a federal offense.
So what? You'll get a little fine, but you're gonna pay.
Oh no. It's actually a $250,000 fine or up to 3 years in prison per offense for vandalizing a mailbox. And since it's happened 10 times in the last 2 weeks, that translates to either $2.5 million fine or up to 30 years in prison. Steve just stares at me for a moment and storms out. At that point, I pull up the federal statute on the computer I was working on, and Mike comes in, insisting that I'm making the whole thing up. So I show him the law, and he freezes. You can take me to court, and I might have to pay a small fine and maybe even tear down the mailbox, but your life would be over. Mike goes,
Maybe, but you can't prove I did it 10 times.
Actually, I took photos of the damages, so I can prove it was at least 10 times. But even if I couldn't, $250,000 is still a lot of money. Much more than your car is worth, I'm sure. Would you really bankrupt yourself or even get yourself sent to prison to force me to pay you $1,000 or $2,000 for the car? Mike stormed out of the classroom and never bothered me again. The best part was actually the domino effect this created. You see, Mike didn't have enough credits to graduate on time. Wasted too much time trying to be a Dr. Phil's case, I guess. I heard through that small town grapevine that he was eventually shunted over to adult programs by the school. Without his car, which was totaled, and unable to afford another, his mom bought the first one and refused to buy a second one when she found out how he totaled it. He couldn't get to his classes and was eventually tossed out of school due to attendance problems. Without a diploma or GED, he couldn't even get into a community college nor find proper work. Not having access to gainful employment left him living with his mother in a trailer, living off her and the occasional odd job he gets. Meanwhile, I'm now married with a child and living in beautiful subtropical Algarve in the south of Portugal and Europe. Mike, if you're out there reading this, I only have one real question. Just how did that mailbox taste? Scream at me and my friend in the bookstore? Let me end your entire career. Okay, so some backstory. Back when I was in college, my pathophysiology class had a final project worth 50% of the total grades we could earn, and groups were picked at the beginning of the semester. This was a massive project that you were expected to start working on at the beginning of the semester, and if you thought you could do it all last minute, you were probably in for a bad time. It was myself, 2 other girls who I knew worked hard, and then this one guy that the one girl was crushing on. She had to add him to the group because he was cute or something. I have no idea. I call him Idiot every time I tell the story though, because he truly was an idiot. The girls were fantastic and everyone pulled their own weight during this project, with exception to Idiot. Idiot never once did any of the group project work. He ignored all messages through texting and Facebook, but would answer the one girl if she was flirting with him. He would only show up to the class maybe twice a month, if that. He would constantly post photos of himself on vacation in Mexico or the Bahamas. I'm pretty sure he spent more time out of the country than in it. One week before the project is due, he messages the group asking what pages in the textbook he needs to look through to do his part of the project. We tell him what he needs to do and where to find the information. We laid everything out for him. If we did anything more, we would be better off doing his part of the project ourselves. Idiot thanks us and then disappears. We all assumed he was doing the work he needed to do, and we were prepared to take a hit on our marks because he didn't have anything done up until now, so the quality of his work was probably terrible at best. Project due date rolls around and he's nowhere to be found, and is ignoring all of our desperate messages. We, myself and the 2 other girls, go to the professor and tell her everything that happened, along with screenshots of literal months worth of conversation where we constantly tried to get Idiot to come to the labs with us, or the library where we offered to help him do his part. The professor was not amused. Immediately fired off an email to Idiot and CC'd the head of the program as well, basically saying that Idiot needs to either do his part and show up to class the next week with it, or he will receive a 0, and the rest of us won't be affected. Can you guess what happened? Idiot was a no answer and no show, with no excuses or anything. Professor gave him a fat 0. Turns out that he needed to do this project and do well on it to pass. He bombed every test, and with this failure he was denied passing that semester. I'm fairly certain he had to retake this course during the summer, which means he, or more likely his mom, had to shell out another $1,300 just for that class. A couple months later, in the college bookstore, Idiot and his mom, I'll call her Screamer, run into myself and the other girls who didn't like him. And Screamer just loses it on the girl and I, screaming at us saying we constantly harassed her son and she was going to make it impossible for myself and the other girl to find work. Idiot's mom worked in the same field that our degrees were for. She sat in the board of directors for the Public Health Alliance for that area. So she was a public figure and a supposedly well-behaved and educated one too. She was escorted out by security shortly after, but that wasn't all that she had planned. Screamer ended up dragging myself and the other girl through every single college meeting they scheduled regarding our non-existent negative behavior towards her son, where he claimed he was constantly harassed, yet with no proof. It was literal months of this poor girl and I having to change our schedules for school classes / studying, so we didn't have any classes or chance happening / run-ins with Idiot, as that's what the college demanded we do. It made our last year or 2 semesters living hell because we couldn't be anywhere near Idiot, otherwise we could face interdisciplinary hearings or worse. Now for the revenge. The security company that handled the contract for the college was also the same company that handled the contract where I used to work. I was extremely close friends with the night shift supervisor, going out for drinks and playing Halo all night with him and his girlfriend sorta close. So one night after I finished work, I asked him for a favor, on the promise that I wouldn't tell a soul he helped me, and telling him he'd have another great video to share with his friends. I asked him to let me email the video to my personal email account. After I told him what had happened and on what day and time it happened, he drove me to the campus. Just after the main building had closed, him and I walk over to the security office where they have all the recordings that run back to the day the security system was installed. He brought the video up of Idiot's mom in the college bookstore, audio and all, of her screaming at myself and my friend. He recognized Screamer. Turns out she's done this before at a different site he patrols and that he was told he had to keep it quiet by his superiors. I told him he could be as quiet as he wanted, but I was going to get my revenge on her. A quick email later and I was in possession of the video. I found out who the rest of the board members were over the course of a few days, and they were all sent an email with the video of Screamer going ape-like in the college bookstore, screaming at an obviously freaked out guy and freaked out girl. The audio perfectly captured the moment where she threatened to make it impossible for me and the other girl to find any work anywhere within that district, followed by her argument with security as she was escorted out. I never received any replies from the board members, so I just waited to see what would happen. Screamer was voted out of her position the following week after the video was shown during one of the meetings she was attending. She lost her very cushy government job and was last seen working in an old age home according to a mutual friend. I'm not sure what happened to Idiot, but I did hear from the same mutual friend that he never did graduate and works at a call center now. The girl and I ended up finding full-time work immediately after graduation. Never had an issue there. Oh, and the security guard ended up getting hired by the RCMP. So I guess good things do happen to good people. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, drop a like, comment down below on some other video ideas you guys want to see, and subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date with my latest videos. I'll see you guys in the next video.